Good evening and welcome to California Today. I'm David Lam, filling in for Liang Zhang tonight. Here's a preview of some of today's stories. The two major ports in Southern California are implementing a charge on any trucks that use fossil fuel. Their goal is to use cleaner energy, but the change comes along with lingering supply chain trouble and higher than ever gas prices. California's primary elections are approaching fast. A group of potential candidates talked about issues they believe are most pressing in the state. Southern California's two major ports will begin charging trucks to haul cargo in and out of their ports. The condition is whether or not the trucks run on fossil fuel. The new fee comes as the trucking industry is facing a range of difficulties.
Trucks picking up or dropping off cargo from the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach will now face extra charges if their engines run on fossil fuel. Each time when these trucks enter the port, they will now be charged $10 extra per 20-foot container, which is the standard measurement for containers. The fee is part of California's Clean Truck Fund Rate fee. The ports said that trucks that do not run on fossil fuel and use various forms of clean energy will not be charged. Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti and Long Beach Mayor Robert Garcia held a public kickoff on Friday for the new fee.
We're really here to celebrate and to kick off what is a first-of-its-kind program across the country. Our Clean Truck Fund will enable us here at our ports to convert our fleet to zero-emission trucks that will come in and out of the ports and then go, of course, as we know, across the nation.
I believe we can have a strong economy and a safe environment. We can have the busiest port complex in the Western Hemisphere and clean our air. And we can keep breaking cargo records. It was great to see the trains going by. It's like, ships, trains, and automobiles today.
The ports have a goal to be serviced only by zero-emission trucks by 2035. The ports are offering $150,000 vouchers as incentives to licensed carriers when they purchase zero-emission trucks. The fanfare comes as ports continue struggling with surging deliveries and supply chain holdups. At the end of March, the Port of Los Angeles had just over 60,000 containers waiting at the terminal. Of those, 15,000 had been sitting there for more than 9 days waiting to be transported. Just about the same number of empty containers, 59,000, were waiting to be shipped out of the port. The additional fees come as the trucking industry is facing labor shortages and record-high fuel prices. The American Trucking Associations called on the federal government in March to find ways to increase domestic energy production to offset costs. Daniel Hall, NTD News, California.
Officials in one Northern California county introduced its new fentanyl working group to fight against the increase in overdoses. Authorities have warned dealers could be prosecuted for murder if people taking the drug died. Drug-related deaths have been more common than not in certain communities. One drug, fentanyl, is a prescription painkiller, but can be 50 to 100 times stronger than heroin or morphine. It's been linked with numerous unintentional overdoses.
Today we're here because there's a fentanyl crisis in Santa Clara County. Fentanyl is causing a rising number of deaths, particularly among 18 to 25-year-olds.
Chavez said the county examiner reports that in 2019, there were 29 deaths from fentanyl, and that number increased to 135 deaths in 2021. She said there are already 8 deaths this year.
Because of the urgency, Santa Clara County has quickly established a fentanyl working group of experts to coordinate and increase the county's efforts to combat fentanyl.
She said the group will also develop a social media campaign. Members include Supervisor Chavez herself, the county's district attorney, and several other experts or those who've been impacted by fentanyl.
We also hope to implement a fentanyl advisement that warns fentanyl dealers about the dangers of fentanyl and that they could be prosecuted for murder if they do it again. We do all this for one reason and one reason only: to prevent as many families from suffering the loss of a loved one.
One father said his son was a victim who was about to turn 18 years old.
Linus had actually taken a pill that he thought was a Percocet, but it was actually laced and it contained a lethal dose of fentanyl. When we found him in his bed, it was actually already too late at that point.
He said the paramedics couldn't do anything to save him. Another member said there's an issue of fentanyl being found in drugs on the streets used at parties, and hopes to understand the dynamics of the younger generation. According to the county website, many drug dealers mix the much cheaper fentanyl into other drugs like heroin, cocaine, ecstasy, and meth to increase profits. Fentanyl has even been detected in cannabis in some parts of the U.S. The supervisor says the group will hold their first meeting on April 15th. David Lamb, NTD News, California. California's June primaries and November midterm elections are quickly approaching. 14 Republican candidates met at a Meet the Candidates forum to talk about issues they believe matter most to California voters. The candidates are vying for governor, secretary of state, attorney general, and the U.S. Senate. Here's a special in-depth report from NTD's Cynthia Kai on what the candidates are saying.
An estimated 250 people showed up for the Meet the Candidates Forum, hosted by Pat Nixon Republican Women Federated in Yorba Linda on March 24th. One of the event organizers, Sky Jones, said many of the candidates at the forum were business owners.
Because there's so many, so we can't divide the vote. We need to come together and say, that is the best candidate. That person is the one that we need to follow.
This year, Governor Gavin Newsom's seat is up for election. Prospective candidates promised to push back against everything, from crime and political indoctrination in K-12 schools to solving the problem of homelessness, and to the exodus of people and businesses from the state.
They tell us why they leave when they leave. They say, we leave because we don't feel safe here anymore. We leave because we don't think our kids can get a great education, and we either have to homeschool them or put them in a school somewhere where our kids are valued. And we leave because we worry that if we invest in California, there will not be a future here because people are thinking too short term. And so what people want more than anything is just somebody to work for them.
Layla Rowe is a businesswoman from Redding. She promised to bring back balance and work for the people, including helping to get homeless people off the streets.
We need to unlock a human-centric model that helps the taxpayers pay less, that cleans our streets, and that actually is more humane for our homeless as well.
At the forum, candidates were Jenny Ray LaRoe, Sean Collins, David Lozano, Daniel Mercury, Christian Morales, Leo Zaki, and Major Williams. Like the governor, Secretary of State Shirley Weber's seat is also up for election. The Secretary of State oversees California's elections and business filings.
We don't have transparency in our elections. We have a huge problem where the majority of Americans believe that we do not have honest elections. Whether that's true or not, it's a problem that if they're believing it, that's a problem, right? And so I want to bring back transparency.
Ham is an author from Fresno and the sole candidate for Secretary of State at the forum. She advocated for one-day voting, all paper ballots with a hand count, smaller voter precincts, and voter ID.
So there's things that we need to fix in the business filings, and there's definitely things we need to fix in the election system. And I think that if we do that, we can really make California what it should be, which is the greatest state in the nation.
Likewise, another seat up for election is the Attorney General's seat. The Attorney General is the state's top law enforcement and legal officer. One candidate, Eric Early, criticized incumbent Rob Bonta's progressive policies on crime.
While he's saying we're going to give more money to fight crime, he supports Proposition 47, which lets you steal up to $9.50 at a shot and nothing happens. He will not publicly come out and support our brave men and women of law enforcement. He supports opening our prison cells and letting the felons run free.
Early also promised to fight to restore election integrity and denounced the state's attempts to implement critical race theory.
This is full-on brainwashing. We got to get our kids' brains back, and I'll do everything I can to make sure that we stop this indoctrination from going on.
Eric Early and Nathan Hochman were the two Attorney General candidates at the forum. And finally, two candidates at the forum are competing for the chance to run against Democratic incumbent U.S. Senator Alex Padilla.
There's so many bills that are enabling pedophiles, that are enabling child molesters, and that are trying to put more toxins in our kids and take choice away from parents.
Dr. Williams is a chiropractor and former U.S. Marine. He said his campaign focuses on medical freedom and exposing the collateral damage of the COVID-19 pandemic.
And when big government or state government tries to step into our living rooms, our family rooms, and our homes and dictate to us how to raise our kids, we're not in America anymore. We don't have a republic anymore.
The other candidate was Sarah Sun Liu, who professed her passion for America and traditional ways. She is an entrepreneur and pastor. The forum held a mock vote. Jenny Ray LaRoe won the secret ballot for governor, followed by Sean Collins. Early won the popular vote for Attorney General, and Williams garnered the most votes for the U.S. Senate. California's primary election is on June 7th, and November 8th is the U.S. midterm election. Cynthia Kai, NTD News, California.
We're going to take a short break, but here's a look at what we've got for you when we come back. A former police officer was jailed for committing fraud through his private security business. He was sentenced to jail this week, along with his wife. And a new amusement park is opening in San Diego. The theme? Sesame Street. We'll share what the park has to offer kids. That and more on California Today. Residents of Los Angeles are losing confidence in their public school system. Students are also showing low academic performance. Now the new superintendent is looking for ways to help local students catch up after online learning.
Angelenos are losing confidence in their public education system. A recent poll from Great Public Schools Now, a nonprofit LA-focused organization, reported 70% of participants rated the public school system negatively. When asked if they believed every LA neighborhood has good K-12 schools, 73% said no. The responses matched declining academic performance numbers. According to a Los Angeles Unified School District spokesperson, 48% of kindergarten students met the state's early literacy benchmarks in the 2020-21 school year. The number dropped by 3% from the previous school year. The same year saw an 81% graduation rate for four-year seniors in district high schools. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, LAUSD was below the national average of 86%. Additionally, LAUSD enrollment is declining, with projections expecting a 4% yearly decrease in student body numbers. One reason may be because, according to U.S. Census data, large numbers of people are leaving Los Angeles. New LAUSD Superintendent Alberto Carvalho previously said he intends to move money for COVID precautions into academic programs. The LAUSD School Board is researching one such program, tutoring. The Board of Education reported on Tuesday that about 11% of elementary school children are receiving tutoring, along with 5% of middle schoolers. Carvalho said during the meeting he intended to have the district research tutoring statistics. Another board member said she hopes to dramatically increase the number of students in tutoring programs. Daniel Hall, NTD News, California.
A retired police officer was sentenced to jail this week for a multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. The man, along with his wife, conducted insurance fraud through his private security company.
Robert Foster, a former police officer, was sentenced to 3 years in jail for using a side security business to commit millions of dollars in insurance fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, and worker exploitation. In January, the 48-year-old of Morgan Hill was charged for 173 acts of conspiring to commit $1.13 million in insurance fraud and $18 million in money laundering to cover it up. Foster owns Atlas Private Security, now Genesis Private Security, with his wife. She also pleaded no contest to the same insurance fraud and money laundering charges. The San Jose Police Department did not know he owned a business. The Fosters illegally reduced their workers' compensation insurance premiums and taxes by reporting inaccurate payroll, under-reporting headcount, paying employees off the books, and under-reporting employee injuries. They did not pay their employees for overtime and dissuaded employees from accurately reporting wage theft violations. District Attorney Jeff Rosen said, "No one is above accountability for illegally trying to make a profit on the backs and injured bodies of their workers." When Foster finishes his jail sentence, he will also serve 2 years of mandatory supervision. His wife will be sentenced to 1 year in county jail and 5 years of probation on April 29th.
California held its 4th snow survey of the year. The measurements help determine how much water can be allocated to cities and water projects across the state. Here's NTD's Cynthia Kai with the numbers.
As California's drought continues, the Department of Water Resources held its 4th Phillips Station Snow Survey of the year. Friday morning's measurement saw small patches of snow surrounded by dry grass.
Unfortunately, I'd hope for better conditions than this, but our survey today recorded a snow depth of 2.5 inches and a snow water content of 1 inch. That is only 4% of average here at this location.
Guzman said the Phillips station would normally have around 5 feet of snow at this time of year.
The majority of our snowpack really only came from a couple storms in December, and the small amounts of snowfall that have happened since then haven't been enough to outpace the amount of snowmelt.
A wet December gave snow levels of more than 200% of normal at the start of 2020. It was still at 109% of average as of February 1st, despite a dry January. However, the state has seen a 3rd straight month of little to no rain or snow.
The April 1st date, so April 1st as in today, is always that important mark in snowpack monitoring because that is typically when our snowpack is at its peak in terms of snow water content. Unfortunately, the northern Sierra Nevada experienced its peak snowpack in mid-January.
The U.S. Drought Monitor shows much of California is in either severe or extreme drought. The lack of rainfall has officials calling for continued conservation amid the ongoing drought. Cynthia Kai, NTD News, California.
Speaking of limited water, the state of California is looking to pay farmers to not plant thousands of acres of land as part of a $2.9 billion plan. The goal is to help restore the habitat in one of North America's largest estuaries. State, federal officials, and several water agencies signed the agreement on Tuesday, which would result in 35,000 acres of rice fields left unused. According to the California Rice Commission, this is about 6% of California's annual crop. The Bay Delta Water Quality Control Plan aims at letting more water flow through the state's major rivers and streams. This, combined with other measures, can increase water flow through the Sacramento-San Joaquin River Delta up to an extra 824,000 acre-feet of water per year. 1 acre-foot of water is more than 325,000 gallons, usually enough to supply 2 households a year. Some environmental groups are in opposition. The Associated Press reported that, according to Doug Obeji, a senior attorney for the Natural Resources Defense Council, the extra water would be about half of what state regulators previously said was needed to fully protect the environment. The agreement was negotiated privately between the Newsom administration and some of the state's biggest water agencies, AP reports. The funds will come from state and federal governments and the water agencies. A new theme park is now open in Southern California. It's based on the long-running children's TV show, Sesame Street.
Muppets like Elmo, Big Bird, and Cookie Monster have become cultural icons around the world. The colorful characters roam the streets of the new theme park, interacting with children and taking part in a grand parade.
We're really excited to welcome kids of all ages and their families to this great park. There's truly something for everyone to do here. One of the things I like about it is being able to come here with your family and you can all experience the rides together. You can experience the show together. You can experience the parade. The park, you may not know, is also a certified autism center. So we welcome everyone to come out to the park and have a great time.
The park features 18 Sesame Street themed rides and water attractions, including a roller coaster, wave pool, and lazy river. The park is the first Sesame place on the West Coast. The first is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Aimed at preschoolers, the Sesame Street TV show has won more than 150 Emmy Awards and is broadcasted in some 140 nations.
Now to NTD's Thomas Christian for an update on sports.
I'm Thomas Christian, giving you the California Today Sports Roundup. Chris Paul hit the game's final 2 baskets 1 minute and 24 seconds apart, including a clutch runner in the lane with 13.1 seconds remaining. Survived a foul field to equal their single-season franchise record for wins with a 107-103 victory over the Golden State Warriors on Wednesday in San Francisco. Devin Booker finished with 22 points, going 10 for 12 at the line, and Mikal Bridges tied for team-high honors with 22. Helping the Suns match the franchise victory record of 62 wins set in the 1992-93 season with Charles Barkley and tied in the 2004-2005 season with the famous 7 seconds or less offense run by Steve Nash. Phoenix earned its 9th consecutive win. Jordan Poole tied his career high set last May against the New Orleans Pelicans with a game-high 38 points for the Warriors. Golden State took its 4th straight loss and dropped into a tie for 3rd place in the Western Conference with the Dallas Mavericks. Suns 107, Warriors 103. Davion Mitchell, Damian Jones, and Trey Lyles each scored 24 points as Sacramento fended off host Houston. Mitchell added 5 rebounds and 8 assists, while Jones chipped in 9 rebounds and 5 assists. The Kings were without all-star caliber players De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis, so they really needed these other guys to pull through. Rockets rookie Jalen Green drilled 6 3-pointers and scored 32 points, with his backcourt partner Kevin Porter Jr. posted his first career triple-double with 30 points, 12 rebounds, and 12 assists. Sorry, Kevin, but it's in a loss. Kings 121, Rockets 118. Jamie Benn scored on a breakaway 53 seconds into overtime, and visiting Dallas continued its late-season playoff push with a victory over Anaheim. Ryan Suter and Andre Sekera also scored goals for the Stars, while Jake Oettinger wound up with 21 saves after facing just 5 Anaheim shots through the midway point of the game. Jamie Drysdale and Kevin Shattenkirk each had a goal for the Ducks, while John Gibson made 32 saves as Anaheim's losing streak reached 11. The Ducks lost to the Stars for the 2nd time in 3 days by the same 3-2 score. Stars 3, Ducks 2. Mikko Rantanen scored a tie-breaking goal late in the 3rd period. Andre Burakovsky and Alex Newhook and Darren Helm also scored, and Colorado beat San Jose in Denver. Nazem Kadri and Eric Johnson had 2 assists, and Pavel Francois made 25 saves for the Avalanche, who got Nathan MacKinnon back after he missed a game with an upper body injury. The Avalanche improved to 7-1-1 in their past 9 games. Brent Burns and Timo Meier scored goals, Thomas Hertl had 2 assists, and Kaapo Kähkönen stopped 42 shots for the Sharks, who lost for the 3rd time in 4 games. Avalanche 4, Sharks 2. As always, I'm Thomas Christian, and thanks for tuning in.
And that's all for tonight. You can join us again on California Today every weekday at 8:30 p.m. If you have any news tips or ideas for a show, or you just want to let us know how we're doing, our email is california.today@ntd.com. I'm David Lamb. Have a wonderful evening.